Hey guys, looks like we are live. Everything's working, and please welcome Kevin Brittingham from Q. Kevin, welcome, man. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to talk about this.
Yeah, man. So let's just jump right in. First of all, for those people who might be living in a cave somewhere that don't know who you are and what you've done in the past, can you just kind of briefly tell us a little bit about yourself and then how Q came into being?
Sure. I started a company called Advanced Armament back in 1994. So, whatever, 26, 27 years ago almost. Um, I owned that for 15 years, sold it to Remington Defense, went to SIG, started a silencer division there. And in 2016, we were tired of kind of big companies. My engineering team, Ethan Lassard's been head of my engineering since I was at Advanced Armament. He was with me at SIG, and we started Q together. We just wanted out of the bureaucracy, out of kind of the mediocrity that you fall into with a big company, and wanted to start a company where we did things correctly. We made the best stuff, and that was the focus. And we started, like I said, about 4.5 years ago, and it's been going like gangbusters ever since.
That's awesome, and you have a history of being very successful in the industry. Everything you touch seems to turn to gold, and I know that you've been quite successful with Q, and it's been fun watching the products come out, and of course you offer your suppressor line. You offer a line of different types of rifles. Probably one of the most. You're great at marketing. I'll just give you that. Sure, you're controversial in how you go about it at times, but man, you've made the Honey Badger kind of a household name over the years. Yeah. And that kind of leads into where we're kind of going with why we're doing the live stream tonight. Braces have been around since, Alex came up with the idea back in, I think it was 2015. And, it's kind of gone back and forth. ATF dropped a bomb. Actually, I think he started in 2012, and in 2015 is when ATF dropped that bomb right before SHOT Show 2015, where they redefined or reinterpreted their ruling of braces and said, well, now you can't shoulder them, otherwise they become SBRs. Yeah. But then 2 years later, after much work by Alex and others in the industry, ATF redefined their redefinition, or they reclarified their clarification and said, okay, well, no, we didn't really mean what we said. What we really meant was you can kind of accidentally every once in a while touch it to your shoulder, and that's not a problem. We're not going to arrest you for that. So it's just kind of been back and forth, and people in the community have long been saying, since 2012, it's just any day before they take them away. They ban them, much like they did bump stocks. And so this leads us to where we are with the Honey Badger and the letter you received, I believe, August 3rd of 2020?
I'm not sure. It was early August. It's disappointing, but I disagree with one thing you said, that they added clarity to something.
Well, yeah, I was being facetious.
Yeah. Well, I think, none of this is, well, I don't know. This with ATF is new. I've not really been hassled by ATF until we came to New Hampshire. And it's disappointing. The Boston field office sending us this letter seems unusual, but the fights within the industry, when we developed 300 Blackout, we had to fight Remington, our own company. And it's always something when you're trying to innovate and you're not doing Me Too stuff. I appreciate the kind words about marketing, and we've been very fortunate. I've been very fortunate in my career, and it garners a lot of attention, whether it be my personal life or, now the ATF or, other executives within companies that I work at. I take it in stride, like whatever. But arm braces, I think it started, I went to SIG in February of 2014, and Jeff Creamer, who runs SB Tactical, he was at SIG then, and he's the one who I think really, in my opinion, Alex invented this product, great product to help out wounded veterans and other people with disabilities, got ATF approval, and Jeff was wise enough to force SIG and really force Ron Cohen to accept this product. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, in my opinion, really made it mainstream. And he's one of the brightest guys in our industry, in my opinion. So things were going great. We were selling lots of those at SIG. And you're right, 2015, they put out an opinion letter that you can't shoulder it. And then I think 2017, maybe they put out another letter that says you can. But one thing that is, I think, really frustrating in this whole situation is when it comes to barrel length for a rifle, the ATF has to set a criteria. They have to set a measurement, a technical measurement of 16 inches, for instance. There is another measurement where when you pull the trigger, it can only fire one round at a time with one pull of the trigger.
Right.
Okay, that's what constitutes a semi-auto. But with arm braces, they've been real coy with it. And I think what they're doing to us is just the beginning, but it lacks sincerity, and I think it's an abuse of what they should be doing rather than working with industry and writing guidelines. They refuse to say what's a pistol brace. They can just give you an approval letter, like they've given SB Tactical 2 that I'm aware of, the original one, and then the MPX brace, which looks nearly identical to our brace, and they say that one's okay, but now they say ours isn't. When we started Q, I didn't want to put an SB Tactical brace that they had in inventory on our gun. I wanted to just aesthetically style it and color it to match our guns. So when they came to me the first year with the Honey Badger, we didn't do it. But after the first year of sales and they saw the popularity, Alex agreed to allow us to aesthetically design one that they would manufacture and we would license to them. And it's based on the complete approval that they have from ATF on the two previous braces, bifurcated flaps, Velcro strap, all the stuff. And they're singling us out. Now, I don't think it's a surprise that it's right before the election. I think there's liberals within, probably the Boston field office and the ATF that would like the opportunity to hurt our president's chances of reelection. It seems pretty obvious to me. And they were just at our place doing a 3-month audit, and it ended less than 30 days before we got this letter.
Interesting.
And then when we got the technical evaluation from Tech Branch, they knew about it while they were doing the audit, and they never said anything. They didn't say, "Hey, you're making SBRs." We sign off on the audit, everything's fine, going about our business. 3 weeks later, we get this letter. They didn't call us. They didn't give us an opportunity to, arrive at a solution for our customers, who I'm concerned about. They just decided to make them felons overnight. And when we first got the letter, there was open communication with ATF, and it looked like they were going to allow us to come up with a solution, like a different brace that met their criteria. They would approve it, and we would send those to customers.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, it went radio silent. And then we asked for this to not be non-retroactive, so it wouldn't put people in the position of potentially being criminals that bought a Honey Badger pistol legally, and they refused, and that's when we went public.
Yeah, I people are probably wondering why, because I do have a letter pulled up in front of me here that you had posted. I've gotten this from the Gun Owners of America's website, guys, and there's a link in the video description to go to the Gun Owners of America's website, and from their page you can see all these documents, but you can also send a letter to President Trump from their website, letting them know, hey, man, this is election cycle stuff. This is political in nature, and you need to rein in your DOJ and your ATF. And to that end, it seems as though DOJ is making moves in that direction potentially, but we've seen nothing concrete so far. So please go by the GOA's website and do that. Now, I thought it was interesting what you had brought up about the brace. First of all, it came from SB Tactical. So you licensed it from them on existing technology they already have a letter for. Last night, Alex showed us the Q brace and the similar product that they have. And he's like, what's the difference here? Except in color, it's the same product. And yet you're the one that gets the cease and desist. And here's another thing I think is scary about what they've done here. So it wasn't the Tech Branch contacting you saying, hey, I think we have a problem here. It was the criminal side that sent you a cease and desist. And I saw somebody make a comment in one of my Instagram posts about this, because I raised the flag early on, like, hey guys, we got to do something about this. We can't sit silent. And somebody said, well, it's just a cease and desist. There's no law enforcement there. It's just a cease and desist. I said, yeah, maybe in your world, but when ATF sends you a cease and desist, it's not a request. It's like, you do this or else. It's a threat at the barrel of a gun. The next step is raid, and it gets ugly from there. So,
they said in the letter that if we didn't, agree to the cease and desist, that they would seek criminal, action against us. So, I mean, they threatened us in the letter that there would be we would be charged with criminal activity if we didn't comply. We complied immediately with the cease and desist. We sent them a letter, which is also interesting is they say, okay, tell us how to remedy this situation. It's like, well, tell us why it's not an arm brace and we'll tell you how we can remedy this. This is very simple. I said, I'm fine with paying for new tooling to do a new arm brace. You declared this one in 20 days to be an SBR. So you can declare a new arm brace to be an arm brace. And they wouldn't agree to it.
That's so weird.
The whole thing is, and yeah, the NRA has actually stepped up. The GOA, of course, in a big way. Lots of industry people have stepped up. We've had lots of support from gun owners who have contacted their congressman, who have contacted Trump, contacted the NRA, told them to get off their butts, their senators, the DOJ and ATF saying how ridiculous this is. And so then we did get a suspension of the letter for 60 days, which to me just freaking reeks, because it's like, okay, so we're going to remove the cease and desist for 60 days. What the hell does that mean? I mean, what it really means is we'll see if Trump gets reelected. And if he doesn't, then we're going to shut you down. And if he does, then we'll forget about it. But okay, but let's say it's not even that sinister. So we ship guns for 60 days. Are you saying the guns now are not SBRs and we can ship them? Or if you change your mind in 60 days, are we liable for the millions of dollars there too and putting those people at risk criminally?
Right.
And of course, they refuse to answer anything. They're ridiculous. But we do know that the White House and the DOJ forced ATF to send the letter suspending it. I believe what happened was that the White House and the DOJ mandated basically they send a suspension of the cease and desist, and that ATF put in the 60 days without them knowing. I don't know definitively, but that's what it seems like.
Yeah, I mean, it would seem that certainly makes sense. I mean, from the very beginning, everybody talks about in political circles about the October surprise. October's the month when political adversaries dump dirt on each other, trying to get the upper hand before November 3rd. Them doing this now, and especially giving you that 60-day window, which puts it just after the election, there is no question that they are playing politics here. They're attempting to put their finger on the scale during a presidential election. They're using a government agency they've weaponized the ATF, and they're doing this. And it's just incredible that people won't respond to this. So when I first saw the letter, one of my first posts I made on Facebook saying, guys, this is political. This is an October surprise. This is a calculated move by ATF. And there are probably Obama employees, holdovers, that just like what we've seen with the FBI and the ongoing investigations. The FBI's, been accused of, doing things criminal at this point. ATF looks like they're doing the same thing. And I had people within our own community going, oh no, it's Trump. Trump's doing this. It's Trump's White House. Trump did this to bump stocks, and now he's doing it to braces. And that's the calculated move on their part. That's exactly the response they were hoping to get from gun owners.
I agree with you completely. We know that Trump, has an executive order in January that mandates that regulatory does not act in this way. And, they're ignoring that. They're ignoring the DOJ's demand that they stop evaluating arm braces. And so what they did was they can't do it through traditional channels. So now they're doing it through a criminal process. So basically what they're saying is that they got the gun. Someone was arrested criminally and owned a honey badger pistol, and that's how they seized it. And then they were asked to evaluate if it were an SBR or a pistol, probably from the municipality that made the arrest, to charge the individual with an additional crime. And so it seems like that's what they're doing.
And this goes back, that smacks of what happened right around that 2015 time period, when somebody in Colorado was arrested with a legal brace, and that, I don't know if it's a sheriff's department or if it's a city police department, but that department contacted ATF and said, hey, we want to help here. Is this a stock or is it not? Apparently they had never heard of a brace before. And ATF came back and said, oh, yep, it's a stock. And that's what started the whole 2015 firestorm.
Yeah. What's scary now is what they're saying is they don't evaluate accessories. So they evaluate guns holistically, which is how they're saying like our gun is a SBR, but the Maxim Defense or the Daniel Defense or SIG's guns are fine. SIG doesn't have an approval letter on their brace, and how many hundreds of thousands of people are out there with those?
Right.
And so basically what they're saying by coming up with these shenanigans are that if SB Tactical submitted the MPX brace on a 9-inch 9mm, but you build the same gun, but in a 7-inch 300 blackout, your gun's not approved.
Right.
Because you made to it. Because holistically, the gun's different, which is completely asinine. Like they don't judge a drop-in sear based on a holistic, approach to evaluating something. They say the drop-in sear is what's regulated.
Exactly.
So now they're regulate an accessory. All we want is for them to give us parameters. I have a whole lot of degreed engineers that I pay, and all we need are parameters. All we need, they just need objectives. They need technical specifications on how to design stuff, and we can fix this. And that's what we're asking for. And they are not being forced to supply any of that information. Instead, they would rather charge innocent Americans criminally for buying something that was okay a week ago.
That they've also approved. I mean, literally the brace, you're in that unique situation where the brace that they've done this to is one of the few that actually has a letter. There are a lot of brace companies out there manufacturing braces without letters, riding on somebody else's letter, and they haven't been harassed yet by ATF. Yeah. But you literally are using a brace that has a letter from SB Tactical, who still hasn't gotten a cease and desist or any other contact from the ATF regarding this matter or others. And they're going after you saying, oh, well, we're looking at this holistically. So does that mean if I go buy the exact same product that SB Tactical has, and I put it on an AR-15, which is basically what a Honey Badger is in 300 blackout, not to insult you, but you know what I mean? And now have I created holistically an illegal SBR when I'm buying a product that has a letter saying it's not a stock, and I put it on a pistol? I mean, that's
exactly what you're doing. They can't go after SB Tactical because they're not a firearms manufacturer.
Right.
So this is kind of the workaround. And then DOJ shut them down because they saw the issue. Like what's ATF going to do? Declare, 4 million people felons overnight? Who's going to go get those guns? Who's going to go arrest those people? What's going to happen there? What's the solution? DOJ and the White House are smart enough to know, the issues with that. But ATF is still proceeding down this road. And it's troubling. What are they going to do? What are they going to do now? We can't take back the thousands and thousands of guns that we've shipped. And, their first offer was, well, take them all back and put longer barrels and stuff on them. Well, number one, it'd probably bankrupt our company. Number two, the Honey Badger doesn't work with that. And obviously, the GOA brought up a good point. Like, obviously, we weren't trying to do a workaround. Even the first year we made the Honey Badger, we didn't do an arm brace. And if you look on our site, we offer SBRs and we offer pistols.
Right.
We don't only have pistols. We sell a ton of both. This was an option for people that need it. You know what's even more troubling and what really sucks? I've gotten direct messages on Instagram from 2 or 3 combat disabled veterans who have the gun, and they're laughing about it, and they're saying, okay, so I lost an arm. I bought the Honey Badger pistol. Like, they lost an arm in combat, bought the Honey Badger pistol, and now the ATF is saying they're felons. That's the whole reason for the dang brace in the first place.
I know.
Like, so there was no conversation ahead of time, which is generally always the problem. If ATF in the 3 months that they're at our place want to talk to us about any of these things, we're always there. You don't need to send a letter to our attorney. Like, you're there, we're there. You have an issue with the gun, you have any questions, fine. Hey, let's not make American citizens felons overnight for something that was legal yesterday. Let's find a way to keep everybody, these aren't criminals. These are people who go through the proper process to buy firearms, and you're going to criminalize them rather than going after criminals. How does it even make sense?
It doesn't. Again, their motives are clearly political. I mean, if there's no question about that. But here's something that I've noticed with recent ATF activity. So you take a look at what they did, and this is why I was saying and screaming from the rooftops when they were, going after bump stocks. And this is why I'm part of the GOA lawsuit suing the government over bump stocks. It's not about the bump stock. It's about what they're doing and how they're doing it. And people still don't get it. If they don't get it now with what's being done to you, they'll never get it. But the firearms community has to realize that what the ATF is doing here is completely without precedent. It's almost as if they've never even heard of the concept of the grandfather clause. And for those people that don't know what that is, that may be listening and they don't understand that concept, it basically says that if you do something today that is not prohibited by law, let's use murder as an example. Today, murder is not specifically outlawed by any law anywhere in the United States or at federal level or state level. It's legal to kill people. You go out and kill somebody and they go, oh man, that guy just killed that dude. Let's pass a law and make that illegal. So they do that the next day. They can't go back and retroactively prosecute you for that crime. That's the standard here in the United States. Yet here we have companies with letters saying that this product's perfectly legal. Go ahead and sell it. You've sold it for years. And now, no, we've changed our mind. And if you don't agree with us and you keep that product, we're going to go ahead and prosecute you criminally. And you, if you continue to manufacture the product, we're going to prosecute you too. We're just going to prosecute everybody.
Yeah, I think there's two main problems with what you just said. Number one, first going back to ATF should be required to give a technical explanation or definition of a product.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's really the first thing. And then the second thing is they should, if the ATF is allowed to change their mind, I don't really love it, but there should be this situation. We asked for it to be non-retroactive, so it wouldn't affect people who have them already. You send me a cease and desist, fine. You're a governing body. I'm going to cease and desist. But just because you didn't get to it 2 years ago, why are we going to make, 4,000 people felons? What people really need to realize, even if they don't care about the honey badger or Q or whatever it is, in the letter, they said, and I'm sure you've read it, that they believe that the fix or the mini fix pistol and the sugar weasel are also SBRs, according to what they've been able to view on the website. And they demanded those free of charge for evaluation to see if they're SBRs. Now, the sugar weasel that we offer has the SBA 3 on it, and there's between 1.2 and 1.3 million of those in circulation. So this basically makes potentially everyone that has a arm brace weapon a felon, which is estimated to be about 4 million people. So everyone needs to get involved. This affects everyone. It's not a Q problem. If we can't make pistols anymore, it doesn't hurt our company. We had back orders before we did pistols, and we had back orders before COVID, and we can sell SBRs probably till the end of time. But, companies like Daniel Defense or Springfield or Palmetto State or all these other companies, they're going to have a real hard time if they can no longer do arm brace guns. So it affects everyone.
It does. And with the bump stocks, it was a fairly small number of people. That's why we saw people saying silly things like, well, let's not fall on our swords over this one. Let's pick our battles. And it's like, guys, we have to draw a line in the sand. We can no longer accept compromise. This needs to stop. There's no compromising going on here. It's just a constant, endless, barrage of us giving up our rights to an organization that is all too willing to take them. And if we don't stop it, it's never going to end, and it will ultimately culminate with a complete ban on everything.
We're going to lose all of our gun rights. Look at Australia. Look at England. There is an end to it. We lose all of our rights to own firearms. And, I'm probably with you, and I'll speak for you and probably most other gun owners. I do not give a crap about a bump stock. Do not. But the problem is that, what's the next thing? Now it's arm braces.
Right.
And that affects everyone. Like, I don't even know anyone that had a bump stock. But if you want one, good for you. You should be able to have one. That's the problem. It doesn't need to. People can't wait until it's something that you have or something that just affects you. It's just an erosion of rights. And, whether it's systematic or they stumble into this stuff or whatever the reason is, rights are going away, just within our lifetimes. Look at the rights that we've lost, machine guns, foreign rifles, the crime bill sunset.
Oh,
but, during the crime bill, you and I lived through that. We couldn't have magazines over 10 rounds, couldn't have collapsible stock, couldn't have bayonet lugs, all these things. Fortunately, right. Bush Jr. let that sunset. But now we're looking at this, and we all just turned a blind eye to the bump stock. And we didn't hold Trump. We didn't hold the NRA accountable. And now look at it,
Yep.
And fortunately, the NRA did not, at first, they were not, I don't think, going to support us. And I think it's probably because they didn't want to get involved in some political thing right before the election. They didn't want, we're not a big donor to the NRA, so they probably didn't care. I'm just speaking for them, but that's probably the issue. But I called them out. They offered to send out emails and all that stuff, and then they ended up not doing it. And I called them out, and once we got the suspension of the cease and desist, they've stepped up and they've been more supportive. And I told them, it's like it gives you guys and Trump the potential to be the heroes, because you guys blew the bump stock and you divided some of the gun vote. And now, you have the potential to unite the gun vote and stand up. And I don't want Springfield and SIG and, Ruger and everyone else, Smith & Wesson now, everybody else who does a braced gun to have to get involved with this. It's very expensive. It's going to cost me millions of dollars, even if we can still produce them, paying attorneys for some arbitrary BS from, someone who maybe was just in a field office in Boston.
Yeah.
And, the problem is, in all these regulatory agencies and a lot of the government, there is no personal accountability. They want to go and, put me out of business, and that would put potentially thousands of people out of business and affect all of our rights, make a whole bunch of people criminals overnight, and they have no personal accountability. That's a problem. DOJ needs to be holding ATF accountable for stuff like this. You and I are old enough to remember watching Waco and Ruby Ridge on television.
Yeah.
They need to be held accountable. And this isn't something, potentially, erosion of rights over time could be as tragic, but, it's not something that's as blatant like that, but this is where it begins. And why is it okay for them to do this, to take these steps and to do it without really having the authority to do it?
Yeah.
And to just change their mind and make citizens criminals overnight. And, I think the White House and the DOJ have kind of stepped up, and hopefully they'll take it a step further. We need everyone's support. Everyone that's contacted the NRA, the White House, the DOJ, and their senator and congressman, Gun Owners of America, keep doing it.
Please.
That's changing.
Yeah. People got to understand, you got to get active. And they think, I've actually seen people say, I don't want to fill that form out. I don't want them to know who I am. And, first of all, 2 points to that. First of all, our founding fathers signed their name to a document that was for certain a death warrant if we had lost our war for independence. You don't. And secondly, if they're going to that point, if they're brave enough to do that, you're scared to fill out a form online to send it to the president to voice your opinion. Secondly, you buy guns. You fill out 4473 forms. If you don't think ATF doesn't already have your name and number, you're a few cards shy of a full deck. They know who you are. Get politically involved. Quit making excuses. Oh, I don't want them to know who I am, or I just don't think it's important enough. It's time to get involved. What were you going to say?
I think it's lazy. And any of us that have worked with the government in any capacity, look, they don't have the resources to go after every single one that signs a form. They don't care.
Right.
There is no risk with that. And I don't even think it's your right. I think it's your mandate to do this stuff. If the government, especially regulatory, that goes without a lot of checks, if they're infringing on your rights, your constitutional rights, like, you are obligated to stand up to them. That's not saying, there's proper ways to do this, and this is the proper way. Everybody needs to voice their opinion. Contact your congressman, your senator, everyone you can, the White House and the DOJ, the ATF, and tell them to knock it off.
Yeah,
That's
do. And so, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I just said, and it's working. That's why we got the suspension of this, is because enough people, listening to you or listening to me, excuse me, stood up and they sent the letters in, they sent the emails, they made the calls, and it caused them to change course.
Absolutely. People are
on that. We've not won, but it pushed things into that direction, and we need to keep going.
Absolutely. Our voices do count. People have lost so much faith in their government that they think that there's nothing they can do. And that apathetic attitude is how we go. That's how we're going to lose our rights. We can't just sit back and be silent when these things happen. We have to get politically involved. We have to coax other people within the community to get involved. I mean, like you said, going all the way back to the 94 ban, in 89, Bush 41 banned the importation of a whole bunch of different firearms, and we still live under that restriction. That was done with the stroke of a pen. That didn't even take an act of Congress.
And Reagan as well. I mean, there's been more, Republican presidents probably affect our gun rights than, Democrats in the last, few generations. I mean, it's sad.
It's true. It's absolutely true. It's not for a lack of trying on the Democrats' part. I mean, they try, but the Republicans succeed because when a Republican gets elected, the Second Amendment community goes, oh, it's a Republican, we're safe, and they go to sleep.
I think you're right.
And
I think, for me personally, too, I always try to stay out of the politics, and maybe that's not the right thing. But, my love, it's the Second Amendment, but it's also like I love the technology and the innovation and the things that you said introducing me, mean a lot to me. Because, I've dedicated my life to the innovations of small arms. That's what I love. Mm-hmm. And, I don't want to be, I don't want to tell people politically I just want to do my job. But, we should all do our part and vote. And, if we need to contact the White House or the DOJ or congressmen or senators, we got to do it. We got to voice, our opinions and what we think is fair. But I try not to get involved in this. And, 27 years of having an FFL, this is the first issue I've ever had. It's the first,
it's a pretty big one.
Here. And I think there's probably a direct correlation to being, under the scrutiny of the Boston field office, which, Boston, Massachusetts, one of the most liberal places in the country.
Yeah.
It's probably not a coincidence. All my other business was in the South.
Yeah, that's very true. And again, it's clearly politically motivated. And here's, we've touched upon it a little bit. It's without precedent what the ATF is doing in the fact that they went around tech branch. DOJ said, stop it. Don't pursue this issue with the braces. And then the criminal branch decides, you know what? They give the big middle finger to the DOJ and they go about doing this on their own. And taking a look at everything that has transpired, the letters that have been, sent to you, your responses, talking to Alex, there's no way that if this goes to court, that any judge or any jury, but any judge that isn't a political hack could decide that what the ATF is doing is legal under the Constitution. There is just no way. What they're doing is so far out in left field and so brazen that I can't see any judge going, oh, yeah, that's perfectly fine what ATF's doing. Yeah, you can continue doing that.
Well, I want to say a couple things. First off, we have the tech branch evaluation. We've not released it. And it is the absolute single most ridiculous part of this whole thing.
Man.
It is complete BS. And you would think it will worry you if tech branch is who we have to rely on to evaluate anything involving firearms. If any of those people involved in that report work for me, I wouldn't pay a minimum wage. Secondly, the problem is everybody's like, sue ATF. If I sue ATF, if I have to do that individually, I lose even if I win. It takes 2.5 years. So if I can't ship Honey Badger pistols for 2.5 years, that's $2 to $3 million a month it costs me. It'll cost me $2 to $3, maybe $4 million in attorney's fees.
Yeah.
And if I win, what do I get? What do I get? I spend $100 million. What do I get?
Yeah.
And you know what Marvin and all these other doofuses at ATF get? Nothing. Promotions, probably.
Right. A pat on the back. Yeah.
So no one's held accountable. So if the White House and the DOJ don't step up and hold these, and I'm sure there's lots of good people at the ATF. I've dealt with lots of good people at the ATF. The people in charge of this are either politically motivated, which they are conflicted and they should they should be removed from their positions, or they're morons. You know, the things that they said in the tech report, some of the things in the letter, the refusal, you know, just the whole pompous idea that, well, that isn't an arm brace. We're not going to give any technical definition of an arm brace, but you can submit another one. And if we like it and we think it's an arm brace, we'll approve it. If we don't, we'll disapprove it, but we won't tell you why, and then spend more money to submit another one and wait a year.
It sounds like they're taking a chapter right out of the playbook of how YouTube decides how they do things. Like, yep, you're in violation of the policy. Well, what policy? We can't tell you that. Well, why can't you tell us that? Because if we tell you that, you might find a workaround to violate our policy. It's like, seriously, like that's your logic? And with ATF doing that, just arbitrarily saying, yeah, that's illegal. Why? Because we said it is. No, but technically why? Can you explain to me where we've run afoul of the law and previous determination letters? We can't. It's illegal.
Yeah, I mean, but motivated by emotions or politics, this is the kind of BS you get. You know, like, absolutely. I don't want to violate the law. I want to comply with the law. I want all of my customers to comply with the law. I want everyone to comply with the law. You know, we just have to know what the law is, and it seems really, you know, simple. Like even jaywalking, they describe it. You know, but you're gonna have a situation where you can declare someone a felon and put them in prison for 10 years and fine them $10,000, but you're not gonna define what the rule is that they're breaking.
Yeah, it makes no sense, and that goes back to the whole 60-day thing. So if by now in this stream and the previous stream that we did last night with Alex Bosco of SB Tactical, if you haven't figured this out, there's something really wrong with what's going on. And it's beyond the pale of anything we've ever seen before. It's just almost surreal. And so where do we go from here? Right. So, you know, I'm just asking out of curiosity. So you have a letter from Tech Branch. Are you going to post that at some point, or are you waiting for something else to happen, or are you just going to sit on that one? Or I'm just kind of curious since you brought it up. I told you I wasn't going to pry too much, but I'm just asking out of curiosity. If you don't want to address it, I understand there's certain things. I mean, you're dealing with a very sensitive topic. I get that.
Well, I won't name the attorney, but when I said I wanted to post a Tech Branch letter, their response was, "You want them to Waco your shop?" Right. So yeah, you know, there is risk to it. Like, I'm taking on a lot of personal risk, and I'm not like a conspiracy theorist. I'm not on that fringe of the right wing. I generally, my experiences with ATF and until I opened a company in the Boston field office jurisdiction, I had great experiences with ATF. If I had a question, if someone, you know, I've always had a Class 3 license. If someone brought me something that was illegal, I would lock it in my safe. I would call local ATF. They would come pick it up. We had a great relationship. If I had a question about something, I could call them. They understood that I was trying to follow the law, that I wasn't trying to violate the law or skirt the law or do anything like that. I always had a wonderful relationship. So this is kind of uncharted territory for me. And to me, I would assume that if you send me correspondence in your government agency, that belongs to me. Like, if you don't want me to publish it because you're going to be embarrassed, like, do a better freaking job. Like, you know, I demand that of my employees. Right. So I don't know, but, you know, we go back to the whole thing. Like, if I sue the ATF, you know, it costs, I mean, think about the lost sales for 2.5 years. So if we can work this out, that's great. But it may take the whole industry to put pressure on the government to make a sensible decision and force ATF into it. But it could cost me $100 million.
Have you talked to Alex about FRAC and that organization?
Yeah, we talk to them. We deal with them. I think Adam Kraut's involved with that, who's someone that I got a lot of respect for. Yeah,
I'm getting involved with that too, because that organization is being spun up to exist for this very reason. Because you don't have the resources, but even if you do have the resources, do you really want to, you know, wipe out that amount of money out of your checking account and your business account? You don't have the resources to go to bat for ATF. So let an organization that can take donations, that can raise that type of money, that has access to those types of attorneys, fight these battles. And you can just call up FRAC and say, hey guys, this is what ATF's doing. And FRAC will jump in, assess it and say, yep, this is definitely a case that we think we can win and definitely needs our attention. So,
well, good point. But you know what this requires is I've had so many people, people like you or me or our customers pledge support, offer to donate money. I get 200 DMs a day about it.
Yeah.
I've had a single other firearms company contact me. That's pathetic.
That's disgusting.
Yeah, because that is the only way this is won. Because like I said, I don't need to save the brace for everyone. I love SB Tactical. I want them to stay in business forever. I think SB Tactical and Silencer Shop are probably the two most innovative companies in the last decade of our industry. I love them. But, SIG, they're a mile from us. They've not reached out, and they probably have 300,000 guns with a brace on the market that are not approved.
Yeah.
So, Springfield Armory, Ruger, Smith & Wesson, you name them, Palmetto State, no one's contacted us.
And what's really surprising with SIG, because this goes back to, SIG has had a very long relationship with Alex to the point that for the longest time, people assumed that they called it the SIG brace because SIG was an early adopter that pushed this product, that fought ATF to get it to market, got it out there and sold so many firearms with it attached that for the longest time, we all referred to it as the SIG brace. And yet they're going to sit silent during this. That's pretty pathetic on SIG's part.
Well, I think several of Ron Cohen, the CEO of SIG, of his decisions have been pathetic. SB Tactical. So SIG had an exclusive on that brace for, I don't know the number of years, but Jeff or Alex could tell you.
Right.
And so sold through SIG. And then they just decided to do their own, which, it's a free market. You can do that.
Yeah, but that's that's underhanded, especially when that company came to you in confidence. You made so much money with them. They brought you something, gave you an exclusivity to it, and co-marketed it. You have such long history with them to turn right around and go, you know what? Sue us. We're going to copy your product.
Hundreds of millions of dollars in sales. It's not something I would do. I mean, I have more degreed engineers than every other silencer company in the industry put together. We could design our own brace. We did not do that. We went to SB Tactical. But, SIG, it's not surprising to me, but they should be in this fight. Springfield Armory should be. All the gun companies should be. And not a single one have reached out to us. There are companies that have, like Black Rifle Coffee Company, have reached out, pledged support. They want to do stuff.
They're awesome.
They don't even have guns. Why do they care? But they are so upset that it's an infringement upon their rights that they are livid and they want to support it and they don't want to let ATF get away with it. But no gun companies are. So everybody that's listening, you need to encourage your gun companies too, because like I said, we can survive without arm braces. But, I don't want SB Tactical to go out of business, but there's a whole lot of gun companies that your listeners love that aren't going to survive if they can't ship guns with arm braces on.
Yep. And this goes back to my whole beef with the bump stock thing. If we sat back and let that happen, a good chunk of the gun community just, like I said, decided, we're not going to fall on our swords for that one. Let's just let them have it. And then I said, that's just going to segue to more actions just like it. Here we are a few years later with them doing the exact same thing, using the exact same methods. And if this doesn't wake people up, I don't know what will, because it's just going to continue. If we don't take a stand here and stop it, then it's going to continue on to the next item. And what that is, who knows? Binary triggers. I mean, pick one. It could be anything they go after. I mean, the ATF, if they can just make stuff up as they've been doing, they can pretty much ban anything. They can ban semi-autos.
Yeah, I mean, I think what you're saying, well, I mean, when we started the company, our flagship product is the Fix, a new bolt-action rifle. Part of the reason we did that was 2016. It was the spring of 2016. We all thought Hillary would win.
Yeah.
We weren't going to invest the money in a gas gun. And right now, we've been working on a gas gun for about a year. It's been shelved.
Yeah.
And we're working on a different gun that will be one of the last to be banned in fear of the election and that, imbecile Joe Biden getting elected.
And here we go back to that whole 60-day thing and the whole politics of what they're doing to you right now. There's the government once again banking on a Democratic candidate's win so that they can continue down this path. Because I'll guarantee you, if Joe Biden gets elected, if you go to his website, and look, I don't play partisan politics. I would say a good 30% or more of my audience would identify as Democrat. Being a Democrat doesn't mean you're automatically anti-gun. I get that. That's why I stay out of partisan politics. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I'm a libertarian, and I'm a single issue voter. I'll own it. If you're anti-gun, you don't get my vote. But I'm telling you guys, go to Biden's website, his campaign website. Go to the page where he talks about his gun control policies and what he wants to do with Kamala Harris. It's 3 pages long. And if you think the 94 assault weapons ban was bad, it pales in comparison to what he wants to do, which is basically eradicate the Second Amendment. We'll have flintlocks and slingshots. That's it. And here we have government agencies banking on, again, or at least hedging their bets, because if Biden gets in, they're going to get their way and this is going to move forward. They're going to go after braces in their entirety and anything else they could go after. But if Trump gets in for another 4 years, then they're going to have to go, oh, well, okay, cease and desist. Now that's permanent. Past 60 days, we're just not going to enforce it. I don't know what that means for you. I don't know if you're going to go back to market with it. I mean, what do you do, right? It's just.
No. Yeah. I mean, we can do something else and take a chance, but then we run the risk of the ATF thinking we're running afoul of them. If we do something that they don't sanction, but that falls within, the ATF handbook, I don't know. It's a risky thing. I've got employees and I've got customers that count on us, and it sucks. Like, I just want to know,
right?
Like, if you ban something, ban it. Like, we'll work around it. We're smart. I'm a problem solver. That's what we do. But when I don't know the landscape, it's kind of hard to build the house.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's unfortunate, and it has to, like I said, it has to end. So going forward, are you guys just kind of, obviously you've been stung pretty heavily by this. Are you guys, I seen a letter where you said you're ceasing the production of the Honey Badger pistols. Will you continue to sell them as pistols without braces and sell the stock separately so folks can Form 1 them and turn them into SBRs? Because the Form 1s are coming back so quickly, or have you not really made a decision on that yet?
Yeah, it's one of the options that we're looking at. We're in a fortunate position, probably like a lot of, unlike a lot of other manufacturers, where we can sell SBRs for the next year or two. So we can wait some of this out. That's not to say that I like it, but we can. So I don't know. My hope is that we got this letter, and the letter is a good direction, but it's still BS. And the hope is that it will, we'll get a letter within the next week or two saying that, they'll just rescind the letter and we'll ignore the whole thing and we'll move on with business as usual, the way we were, and everyone's safe. That's best for everyone, and that's why the DOJ and the White House got to step up and mandate it to ATF.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't know what we'll do. It's sad, and it's going to be sad for the other companies because I'm not sure they'll be able to pivot as quickly as we can. But, we'll stay in business. We're still growing. I still make lots of money. It's fine. But I'm not going to bankrupt myself and all my employees lose their jobs to sue ATF. When you win, nobody wins. Like, the ATF wins even when they lose.
Well, that's what they're banking on. They're banking on the fact that you won't defend yourself or take them to court to fight them. Early on, I kind of speculated that one of the reasons they targeted you was because of that. Because if they had sent that cease and desist to SIG, I guarantee you their fleets of lawyers would have been on that immediately. And maybe that's why they stuck their toe in the water by targeting you.
I think that's always probably a good reason they did it. But I will say, if they hold their position with this, they're going to get sued, and we may be the complainant, but there are people willing to fund it. So, for me, if I do it just on the principle of that, puts my company out of business. Or these other companies, we've already had some people willing to fund it, and if they hold this position, that's what's going to happen. I don't want it to happen. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's a waste of my time and energy and resource, and I'd rather be doing more positive things. I just want to innovate. I just
Right.
want to follow the law. I want to innovate. I want to do stuff that excites the consumer, that creates demand, that changes our industry. Like, that's all I want to do. Like, I'm not trying to be a politician. I'm not trying to make friends. I'm not trying to do any of these things. All I want to do is my job. But now it's like I work at a big corporation. I got to spend 5 hours a day dealing with the silliness of ATF when they can't, define the product or the problem, and me try to guess all day. It's like me rationalizing stuff my 5-year-old daughter. I'm just like,
Well, they're doing this on purpose, clearly, and at some point somebody's has to be held accountable for it. But again, it looks like they're banking on this election. Should things not go these particular agents' way, I suspect that this will be swept under the rug to be revisited 4 years later. If Biden gets in, I think it's going to get a whole lot worse very quickly. I think these agencies are going to go completely rogue because I can guarantee you a Biden administration will not do one thing to rein in the ATF in such matters. They're going to, if anything, push them along, which will set more and more precedents, which will be used again down the road, even after another pro-gun administration comes into power. They will have done so much damage that it will be almost irreversible. And that's their hope. That's the long game.
Everybody's got to get out and vote. I mean, we all know that no one's voting for Biden. People are voting against Trump. Like, no one. Biden. I mean,
no, they couldn't pick a worse candidate,
No, but, everybody's got to get out and vote for Trump. Like, if you want to keep your guns, I mean, you got to do it. Now, like, I don't even like getting involved in politics publicly, but at this point, like, it's obvious. If you want to keep your guns, you have to go vote against Biden.
That's pretty much what it boils down to, and people have pushed, the third party candidate Joe and said, vote for Joe. It's like, look, I voted for Ross Perot, right? I get it. That's when I left the Republican Party, right? And we got 19% of the vote. That was the closest we came. And someone argued that Trump is a third party candidate because the Republicans hated him just as much as the Democrats did. Everybody, look at Romney and establishment Republicans. They hate his guts.
Yeah.
So, but the point being is that this isn't the election cycle to try to make a statement about third parties or whatever. If you truly want to keep your Second Amendment intact, at least for another 4 years until we can build a strategy, because we have to keep fighting and we have to keep pushing forward, because ultimately, if we don't, we will lose our Second Amendment rights. So with this election, basically, like you said, you got to vote against Joe. And I hate making that determination.
You have to. And I think what we can do is just hope that, no matter what you think about Trump, he's got a son, Don Jr., that loves the Second Amendment probably more than anyone I've ever known.
Yeah, Don's an amazing guy.
I'm not saying that his dad does, but I'm saying his dad's way better than Biden. But I will tell you that if Don Jr. decides to run, we will get some gun rights restored.
That would be awesome.
There is no firearms, hunting, and fishing more than him that I know in my personal life or that I've ever heard of. He's sincere with that stuff. So, that's my hope, is that we can get through this and we can get him or someone like him in office that will protect our rights and will rein in the ATF and other regulatory that go without sanction or accountability and aren't making any improvements for the average citizen and are hurting businesses.
Yeah.
And are taking away individual freedoms. Like, I don't, to me, I just want to live. Like, I just want to live. I want to leave the world a little better than where I found it.
Right.
And I want to do what I want. That's all I want to do. And that's what I want everyone else to do. Like, I don't want to tell anyone else what to do. But, this sort of ridiculousness with the government, all this makes me want to do is shut my place down, take my tens of millions of dollars, and go live on a ranch somewhere and not employ anyone, not add to the community, not add to society, not add to, the firearms community with innovation or anything, not employ people, not employ, people that are vendors and so on, how all that trickles down. I just want to go live my life and never see anyone that works for the government again. And that's pathetic, sad, and I hate it.
Yeah, that doesn't help anybody, but that's what they're trying to force, you to do and others to do. They want to create so much, pain in operating a business that's even remotely associated with firearms that people just simply don't even want to get involved in the business. They've made
Yeah.
it so, 100 years ago, American firearms were leading in technology worldwide. And now we're seeing more and more foreign companies winning U.S. military contracts, companies like FN and Beretta and stuff like that, because the companies like Q that innovate in small companies, innovation doesn't come from the big giants typically. It usually comes from small companies trying to go do something a little bit different, going into uncharted waters and coming up with something new and innovative. And they've put such a crushing amount of pressure on people that they don't want to do it. They don't want to invest in firearms. If you have somebody that manages your money and you have $10 million in the bank, and you go to your money manager and you say, hey, look, I really want to get into business for myself. I'm going to use $5 million of my $10 million. And I think I'm going to start up a firearms company. They would say, don't do. Are you crazy? Have you looked at what's going on? And that will, in and of itself, kill us. They're coming at us at so many different angles that they're just trying to kill the Second Amendment and firearms as a whole within the United States.
I think people need to think about a couple of things when we look, from a macro view like that. Number one, we don't want the Chinese making our guns.
No,
it's a bad thing. Secondly, if we ban guns like they've done in Australia and England, what we have is a military that is far less efficient than they were before civilians had guns.
Yeah.
The Brits, their special forces now come to the U.S. to train all the time. And they're one of the most BA special forces groups in the history of the world. Mm-hmm. And they cannot shoot guns. The most elite guys in the history of the world can't shoot guns unless they're at this one place in their nation. So they just come to America and they go, they'll spend 3 months here, rotating and training. That's what we need as a nation. No matter what you think, we're going to be a target for a very long time because we're the richest, powerful, most high-profile nation in the world. We don't want our soldiers to not be able to train. We don't want the Chinese making our guns. And if you step back and look at it, that's the direction we're going. And it's not a good thing.
I agree, man.
No. But, what else? You got a whole bunch of people watching. They asking questions. What do you got?
They've been making some comments. I've been throwing them up on the screen. Some folks have been doing super chats and stuff like that. Just so you know, you're going to be surprised by this, but we're in an hour, man. We've been talking about this for an hour. So we typically try to cut things off at an hour. So I was going to ask you, since we're coming up against that hard stop at an hour, is there anything you want to say before we say goodbye to all the folks that are watching tonight?
No, I think that's it. I appreciate all the support. It's really been overwhelming from the consumer standpoint. I think the firearms companies need to step up because this isn't just me. They're not singling me out, like you said. They're testing the water with me, and I think everybody needs to continue to push. Getting the suspension of the cease and desist is a minor victory, and we should all be proud of that. But, now's the time to step on their throat. Everybody's got to voice their opinion, contact the NRA, contact the White House, DOJ, your congressman, your senator, the GOA, everyone. Keep making a racket about it.
Yep.
Or everyone's going to pay the price. There's 4 million people that'll be felons next week, if not.
I agree 100%. Well, Kevin, thank you for coming on the show. Guys, if you would like to support us here at the Military Arms Channel, we are supported by you, our viewing audience. There is a link in the video description below. Click that link and consider becoming part of our Patreon family. Kevin, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. I wish you the best, man, and I'll keep doing whatever I can do to help you in this matter. And hopefully we get enough people involved that we can win this battle, and so we can live to fight another day for the next battle that's just around the corner.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it.
All right, man. Thank you for coming on. Guys, thanks for watching, and we'll talk to y'all soon.